Today we're going to talk about the machine learning topic of linear classification. We'll start with a little toy example where I have fruits and vegetables and I am classifying them based on are they a fruit or are they a vegetable. Well, I'm going to start by graphing each of the foods based on their sweetness and crunchiness. So something like a banana, very sweet, not very crunchy. An apple's got a little bit more crunch, maybe less sweet than the banana. Orange is very sweet. Grapes are very sweet, but none of them are very crunchy. And then when we talk about carrots and celery, cucumbers and broccoli, those all have a bit more crunch to them, but they're not as sweet. With linear classification, we can try to find the best linear decision boundary. And then if we get a new food, like this food in the yellow color, we can say, well, it's on the left side of this decision boundary. Anything on the left side of this boundary is going to be a vegetable. If it were on the right side of the decision boundary, we would say it is a fruit. So let's turn this into code. If I want to graph it, I'm going to import matplotlib.pyplot. And if I don't want to have that in every single command related to the plot, I can make this little alias plt. So I've got this little array that has the sweetness and the crunchiness values. Whether it's a fruit or a vegetable or not, we'll put that in this variable ytrain. For plotting, I've got this fancy little code here. First, let me explain what the zip part is doing. So for the zip, let's say I'm zipping together the data about each of the fruit's sweetness and crunchiness and whether or not it's a fruit or a vegetable. The zip command will combine them. So I have a tuple of all the values related to the first item and all the values related to the second item. The banana is in this next tuple, and then all the items related to the orange, etc. So I'm putting them together, and then I'm going to use X and Y for the sweetness and the crunchiness, and then the label for fruit. So kind of putting it all together and then splitting it out again. And then if the label was the word fruit, I'm going to go ahead and make that the color blue. Otherwise, I'm going to make it the color green for my veggies. And then we'll make a scatter plot and add our X and our Y values. And the color is going to be either blue or green, and we can show the graph. So let's see what this looks like. Voila, I just need a title and some labels for the X and the Y axis. So we'll just add some labels to the X and the Y axis, a title. I'll go ahead and add a grid so that we can more easily see where those points are. And we run this, and this looks even better. And we can already, as humans, eyeball for something that's two-dimensional like this. I can imagine the kind of line that I would draw here to separate the fruits from the vegetables. And then if somebody gives me a new point, I can figure out, is it a fruit or a vegetable? So let's draw that line. Instead of us eyeballing it, we're going to use a class, Logistic Regression, from the sklearn package. We'll just add this import statement in here, and then somewhere in the code, doesn't matter whether we do it before or after the plotting, but it does matter that we've got all of our data, because I'm going to go ahead and create an instance of this logistic regression class and call a fit function, and I'm passing in all training data, the crunchiness and the sweetness, and all the labels, whether they're a fruit or a vegetable. And based on that, I'm going to have enough data to do a prediction. So I'm going to add in some input statements here to figure out what the new food's sweetness and crunchiness is. And using the model.predict, I'll be able to pass in that new food. And the predict function is able to take many foods all at the same time and make multiple predictions in one function call. We just want to see what one food is. So that's why I'm saying what's the 0th element of the array when we look at the results. So let's say our new food is a little bit crunchy and a little bit sweet. So I'm going to give it a sweetness value of 4 and a crunchiness value of 4. And we'll see where, well, the prediction is vegetable, but I'm not showing that point on the graph. So let's update our code. Once I have the new X and Y values, we'll go ahead and add them to the graph, and I'll add them with an orange. And I'd also like to see whatever line the logistic regression class came up with. So I'm going to plot that. So I happen to know that my sweetness and crunchiness values are just going from 0 to 10. So I'll have X values that go from 0 to 10. And for each of the Y values for those X values, well, I can take the model that I've created. That was the variable that's holding that logistic regression class. And once I fit the best line to that, then I'm going to have what is a y-intercept, and I'm going to have the coefficient in front of the x. So I can go ahead, and this line's getting way too long. Let's see, where could I put an enter sign to make it so we can see everything? We can actually draw that line. I'm doing it with a dashed line. And let's try some different values. What about if it's a 6 and a 6? Well, this time it's going to be classified as a fruit, and we can see that best fit line there. There's more than one way to do linear classification. Some of the common algorithms for linear classification are logistic regression, which we're going to use today, support vector machines, that'll be a future lecture, and perceptrons. So with logistic regression, it's good for binary classifications when there's two classes like fruits and vegetables. It estimates the probability of the input belonging in one of the two classes, like fruits or vegetables, based on the input features, our crunchiness and our sweetness. It's going to use the sigmoid function, also called a logistic function. And if you graph this out for the different input values, the different z values, you're going to get something like this. And we can split this in two. Our values of 0.5 and below would be one class, and 0.5 and above would be the other class. So right in the middle, you've got something that could be a fruit or could be a vegetable. You're pretty uncertain, so your algorithm would just have to figure out what to do if it's exactly a tie. But for our example, above 0.5 is going to be a veggie, and 0.5 and below will be classified as a fruit. So let's go ahead and do the math. I can figure out exactly what weights are put in front of our sweetness and our crunchiness values, and there's also a bias. There's also a value that's being added to this. So how do I figure out that these weights that have been determined by the model? Well, let's go ahead and look at the Python code again. Remember the part of the code where we were drawing that straight line? Well, we used the y-intercept, model.intercept, and we used two coefficients. Well, those are the two weights in front of our sweetness and our crunchiness values. So that's the weight 1 and weight 2, and this y-intercept was called a b, like a bias. And we can look at those three values that were calculated. But let's look at the graph. We can see that the y-intercept, if we look at this value right here, well, it does seem like it's about 3.5. What is the model.intercept? With the underscore, and I just rounded it to 3.5 when I was putting it in the PowerPoint slide. And what about the coefficients? Let's look at the model.coefficients, and I rounded those two values to -1 and 0.3 as well. So we can see that weight number 1 is roughly -1, weight number 2, 0.3, and then the bias 3.5 is added. So for all of these inputs, we can do the math and we can say, well, we've got our sweet, our X value, our crunchy, our Y value. We can multiply them by the weights. We can add on that bias, and then we end up getting a number that's a negative number. Same thing with the banana. So it turns out that the fruits end up getting these negative numbers. The broccoli ends up getting positive numbers. And what that sigmoid function can do, if we take the z value that we've calculated by applying the weights and the bias, then we can do 1 divided by 1 plus e to the power of -z, the z that we calculated here, and we'll get a probability. So numbers between 0 and 1. So for instance, an apple has a 15% probability of being a vegetable. That's pretty low. Banana, even smaller, less than a 1% probability of being a vegetable. Orange is not a vegetable, only 2.7% of chance of being a vegetable. A grape, a very tiny chance. But our real vegetables, carrot, celery, cucumber, broccoli, all have over 90% chance that they should be classified as a vegetable. That was just a toy example. Let's try a real life example. So what if machine learning could help us find out things about cancer? Well, there's a real life Wisconsin breast cancer data set that has real values from different classifications of tumors, and some of them are benign and some are malignant. So to pull in this breast cancer data set, the easiest way to do that is to use the sklearn data sets from Python, and then we can just load that breast cancer data set. And I'm not even ready to put this in a script yet. I just want to see a little bit more about what this data set contains. So I'll import the data set, and then we'll go ahead and load the data. And what is this data variable that we've got here? Well, it's an sklearn utils.bunch.bunch. A bunch is kind of like a dictionary. So we'll have key value pairs, and I might wonder, well, what kind of key value pairs do we have? And we've got the data, we've got target, frame, data names, etc., etc. And let's take a look at some of these. The data is going to be pretty big, so I'm not sure that I'm ready to print all of that. Let's go ahead and print those target names and see what we're dealing with here. And I'll have to do data and then target names. So the option is that your tumor that you're looking at is either malignant or benign. That 0 is malignant and 1 will end up being benign. And I'm in no way making light of cancer. A lot of people in my family, both my parents had cancer. My mother died of cancer. So if machine learning and AI can help us solve or research cancer, I think that's a fantastic thing. Let's look at some of the other fields. So I've got a description that'll give us a little bit more information about this. Well, it's the Breast Cancer Wisconsin Diagnostic Data Set. It has 569 different records, and each of them have 30 properties. So instead of just the 2 properties of sweetness and crunchiness, there are 30 different things they're keeping track of to help predict whether or not this is going to be a benign or a malignant cancer. Tumor. So here's some of the things they're looking at: radius, texture, perimeter, smoothness, etc. Now I know the video is getting a little long, so I'm going to just kind of fast forward to the code, and I'll put a link to this on my GitHub in case you just want to get the code. So I'm going to load in the breast cancer data set, and then it's common in machine learning to split things into test and training data sets. So I'm going to say 20% of the data I'm going to hold back and use that to measure how good my model is predicting whether or not a tumor is cancerous. And so I've got things split into my training data that'll be used to train the model, and my testing data, the 20%, how good is the model? And then we want to be able to run this and get the same results multiple times. So I'm using this to kind of see the random number generator. Again, we've got the logistic regression. I'm going to put a cap on this and say when we're trying to come up with that best fit, this time it's not a line, it's a hyperplane because there's so many different dimensions. Let's cap it at 5,000 attempts at trying to find that best hyperplane that splits the benign and cancerous data points. And then we'll go ahead and fit that model. We can predict using the 20% of the data that we held back, go ahead and predict and see how well we did using the accuracy score function, but it'll take the real results of was this tumor benign or malignant, and then our predictions, and tell us how many of our predictions were correct, what's our percentage. And I run this program, and it says that my model is able to predict whether tumor is cancerous or not with a 95.6% accuracy. So that's pretty good for such a small data set that we're using to train our model on. And we're using the same principles that we use and a lot of the same code we use for the fruit and vegetable classification. Happy programming!